TJ is the Urban and Community Forest Program Coordinator for Rhode Island DEM. And since the special topic area this year is Urban and Community Forest, she seemed like the right guy to bring up. So please put your hands. TJ, your last name is?
Boudreaux.
Boudreaux, TJ Boudreaux.
Hello? Hello?
Light's on, it's on.
Oh, this is only for that, right? It's not like amplified. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So like Dave said, my name's TJ. I work in forestry in the Division of Forest Environment for DEM. I'm the Urban and Community Forestry Program Coordinator. So what that means is that I work with all of the towns in Rhode Island to help them plant trees, to manage their plans and how they want to plant trees, help them create ordinances, work with citizens if they just have questions about it, and go over a few things that I think are going to be important for you to learn for your project in the Envirothon. And if at any time there's anything you want me to talk about that I'm not talking about, please let me know. And if you want me to stop and talk about something in more detail, please let me know. So I'm sure you're all aware there are 4 key topics for the special project, Urban and Community Forestry. I'm going to go over these topics specifically and then touch upon the 7 learning objectives. If you haven't seen,
You definitely want to read these.
yes, this is, I'm sure, going to be important when you're taking your test. And we'll cover all of this. I may not call these out specifically, but we're going to touch on all these topics. So I'm going to throw a few of these in here just to break up what I'm talking about. The first person to raise their hand, if you know what kind of tree this is, doesn't win anything, but you let everyone know that you know what it is. It's all the same tree, just a couple of different. What kind? It's not a silver maple. In the back, with the glasses. What kind? It is. Acer rubrum, red maple. Does anyone know what's special about this tree? There you go. It's a state tree. Fantastic. It's everywhere. So we have a group of extremely happy people. Why do you think those people are so excited? For trees. They live in a community that has parks with trees like this. Sadly, we don't, because these are southern live oaks and we don't have these trees here. But we could. We have awesome trees like this. And when they walk out of their house, they have trees like this, right? That's why those people are super excited. And we want everyone to be super excited because they have trees in their life. A lot of people think trees are maybe things like this. They're an umbrella, right? Or they're just some kind of prop that's there. But that is totally incorrect. Trees are so much more, right? Does anyone know who this guy is? Right? First person to raise their hand. Who is this? There you go, SpongeBob. Trees are power plants, right? They generate energy. They're doing tons of things all the time. There's miles and miles of interstate highway with off-ramps that you wouldn't imagine, right? Going up and down the phloem and the xylem, sending water and nutrients everywhere. They're construction workers. They're constantly building upon themselves, right? They're homes. Homes for what? Wildlife, bugs, kids that have forts in their yard. They are a feeding ground for bugs, birds, other things. They also eat themselves, right? They need to generate energy, get nutrients, water, all that good stuff. They're also attacked constantly by international terrorists. Does anyone know any international terrorists who attack trees? EAB, emerald ash borer, and Paul mentioned the other one, a big one. In the back. That's right. And I brought some live dead samples of emerald ash borer and the Asian longhorn beetle, and some bark that they have decimated, and a couple other things that we can pass around later and you guys can take a look at when we take a break. So trees also have to act like superheroes, right, to kind of get rid of those international terrorists that are attacking them. And just like everything else in this world, trees, just like everyone else, really just want to reproduce, make more of themselves, populate. So, another tree. First one, let me know what it is. It is a white oak. What made you think that it was a white oak rather than a different kind? Because it had the rounded lobes? Very nice.
We study something other than leaves, because there's probably not going to be
Oh, sure. So let's take a look at this oak. Oak leaves, oak trees have what kind of fruit? Anyone know what kind of fruit's on an oak tree? My friend with the plaid shirt. An acorn, right. And if we look at this acorn, the acorns on oak trees are all different. White oaks have a very small cap. So if you're looking into the forest and you see these caps that are really small and a really big acorn, if there's no leaves, you can know that that's a white oak. Other kind of oaks, like a black oak, have a little bit bigger acorn cup, and this part of it is frayed a little bit. It's more, you can kind of like play with it, where this is a tighter creation. Does that make sense? So that's just another way to look at it to tell you that it's a white oak. So one of your first key topics are to understand what sustainable urban and community forestry is and why it is important. All right, sustainable. I have this up here because it's a buzzword. Everyone says sustainable all the time. And I don't want to get on my soapbox, but I'm not a big fan of the word sustainable because it's everywhere, right? We always want to make everything sustainable anyway. So if someone is asking you to write something that is sustainable, I would mention it, but you don't have to put it in everywhere because obviously we want to do something that's sustainable and not unsustainable, right? Does anyone know who this guy is? What kind of bee? He's a very famous one. Buzz Bee. He's on a TV show. It's really good. So this is the definition of urban forestry in terms of the U.S. Forest Service, who I ultimately work for through the state. So they say that my position, and every state has a position like me, so every state has an urban coordinator. And that was started in 1990 with the Farm Bill. That gave the states the power to have a comprehensive urban and forestry program. So they say that someone in my position on the state level provides technical, financial, educational, and research services to cities, states, nonprofit groups so they can plant, maintain, protect, and utilize wood from trees and forests to maximize all of their benefits. So that's kind of the level that I'm at working for the state. I'm not in the communities doing the management plans or planting the trees or telling people what and where to plant, but I am offering guidance and suggestions for how their communities can do that kind of work and obviously help out on any level that I can. So urban forestry, I think a lot of the other topics that you learn about, soil sciences, air quality, water, stormwater, all that stuff is very technical. And forestry is technical as well, but urban forestry, I see it as more of a social science as well as it is, environmental and earth sciences. So if we're looking at planting trees, right, you're putting a tree in the ground, you have to know the science behind the tree, where it's going to go, what kind of site requirements you need, but you also have to deal with how you're going to pay for that tree. Who do you have to ask for money? What's your angle going to be when you are requesting funds for planting when your community says, we don't have any money to plant trees, we barely have money to fix the potholes? How do you coordinate the planting? Who are you going to get to do it? If no one in your community is technical enough to plant trees, are there friends groups? Are there locals that have knowledge? Are there arborists that you can talk to? How are you going to get those volunteers that may be just helping out for that day, and how are you going to train them? And then how are you going to detail your project? How are you going to give examples of what you're doing and prove that planting trees is a worthwhile experience? And how do you promote what you're doing? Those are all different things that aren't necessarily science-based, but they're more of a, like I say, a social science. You're dealing with people. It's all about relationships when you're dealing in communities and trees, because they can become very sensitive topics. So other things, we could talk about urban forestry for probably the whole day, but I'm just going to give a list of some of the things that we deal with, urban foresters and people that work in communities. So typically you deal with, tree injury and diseases. Identify what's wrong with this tree. The leaves didn't come out this year, or there's a broken limb, or there's something wrong. Can you tell me what it is? We get those kind of phone calls all the time. People want to plant trees. Maybe there's someone in the state, in the town, that has to sign off on that. In Rhode Island, we have a tree warden law. So each community has one person who is responsible for trees, at least one person. By law, they have to assign that person, and that's called the tree warden. Most New England states have that. Your town has one. If they don't have one, it's kind of the de facto public works director. But that person has to sign off on where trees are going to be planted or where trees are going to be removed. Working. No, it would be public land. If you want to plant a tree in your yard, no one can stop you or, tell you yes or no. But street trees, trees in parks, anything that's a public tree, usually gets the sign off by the tree warden because they're the designated expert. Future planting and planning. What are going to be the laws in your community? What are you going to say about planting and removing and pruning? Who's going to do it? When can they do it? Those kind of things. And writing master plans like your special topic. And we'll talk about a few things about that in a little bit. And then promoting tree planting. I work in the office to do Tree City USA. We currently have 10 cities in Rhode Island that are Tree City USA. That means that they have met 4 characteristics of the National Arbor Day Foundation. They have a budget of $2 per capita to plant trees each year. So that means if they have 5,000 people, they have to spend $10,000 in tree-related activities. They celebrate Arbor Day. They have some type of proclamation. They have an ordinance that deals with the laws, like I mentioned before. And they have someone responsible for trees, or a tree board. So education and outreach, talking with students that are from preschool up to high school students, talking with adults that want to learn more about trees through non-traditional classes like our Tree Stewards program, things like that. And then professionals, working with arborists, working with city planners, environmental scientists. They need to continue their education and get continuing education credits. And then partnerships. We work very closely with public works directors, with communities, with friends groups, basically anyone in the state that wants to plant trees or loves trees. We're involved with helping them reach their goals. And if you work in, let's say you work for a city, if you're the city forester, you'd be doing these things as well. You'd be working with the different neighborhood associations, the tree friends groups, things like that. And then being a liaison, working with homeowners, professionals, and communities. You can kind of be a sounding board or a third party if people are having a dispute or a discussion about what should be done with the trees. Community forester is a good resource to go to get another piece of advice, like going to another doctor. And then be a cheerleader for the cause. People don't want to plant trees. Trees don't have a voice. They don't vote. So they need someone to act on their behalf. And that's what community foresters do. Kind of just talk about the benefits of trees and why everyone should be around trees and we should have more trees. So a lot of those things are not technical. They're not science-based. They're about dealing with people and about kind of crafting a message to let people know about urban forestry and why it's important. And then wood utilization. It's a big movement now for urban trees that are being cut down, not to just be turned into mulch, but to be used for something as little as, I think it over there, but my flash drive is made from the wood from Missouri. When the ash trees were cut down, they decided to make a bunch of different things. And one of them was flash drives. So my flash drive is EAB-infected ash tree. Or bowls. People make bowls and spoons and all different types of things, really cool things that people can use now from wood with portable sawmills from their urban trees. And it's really cool because you can sell it. People can go to areas where trees have been decimated or there have been diseases and they can buy products to say that they've been there. Like you go on vacation and you get a souvenir, that kind of thing.
One of our Envirothon board members carves spoons. He says it's very, very good for you mentally. So try carving a spoon and see what you think.
There you go. And then I say anything that the man throws at you, anything that your boss or someone tells you that they want you to deal with that day. Climate change is huge. Everyone's talking about climate change. And, my job is to promote trees. So my angle right now is how can I convince people to spend money on climate change, specifically on trees. People want to spend it on energy abatement or stormwater or other things like that. I'm trying to figure out how do I fit trees into the whole climate change debate. What's invasive removal treatment? What are we going to deal with now that we have these insects coming? What's the best approach to that? How can we use trees in stormwater abatement projects? Things like that. Energy savings. And then the question that everyone sends, what tree is this? They send you a picture of maybe half of a leaf. And they say, tell me what this is. I don't know. And then you got to do your best to tell them what it is.